they'll open their videos for us. I mean, assuming that they can.
Yes, everyone is allowed to
Oh,
open
I
their
see
video.
some people. Nice.
Hello.
Hello, people. Hello, teachers.
Okay, wow.
Okay.
We have more and more bodies coming through the door, so we'll give it a
So, Elise, how do I get it so I can see, or they'll just, until I share, it's like this, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I got it. Okay. That's why I need your face, so I can make sure I'm not thinking
But
that I'm not getting it.
I would like to hide my face.
I know, but we like your face.
No chance. No chance.
Faces are very important to me.
So Shira, when Jordan was cutting out my little squares, she said, I know this, I can match these.
Dr. Heinz, do you want to show me your picture? Are you showable?
Yeah, but I haven't gotten my, well, I think so.
She doesn't have her video up yet.
I don't, where's my video?
Bottom left corner.
Okay, let's see what's going on here. Why is my...
Okay, so Sue Byron. Hi, Sue Byron. She doesn't have her camera working, but that's okay.
We're asking everybody to be muted, but you can have your cameras on. So.
Usually I know where my camera is. I don't know where my camera is today.
Hey, there they are in Avir Yaakov. I see them.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started if we're ready. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of the science behind the letter sounds back to basics webinar. Tonight's focus is going to be on consonants. Before introducing our presenter, I just want to walk through a couple of reminders. Anybody have questions? I keep hearing a few voices, so I'm just wondering. Anyway, we are broadcasting live on YouTube. Attendees, you've all been muted so that the presenter can have a clear and uninterrupted presentation. We ask that you please stay muted until we ask you to unmute. This is an interactive session, so Shira is going to want to hear your voices every once in a while. The session is scheduled for 90 minutes. If you stay muted, you're going to be able to get up and walk around and stretch a little bit during the time so that you don't feel stuck. Hopefully everyone has their handouts and they are prepped and ready to use. You're going to need a flat surface to work on and have your handheld mirror close by. Got a few more people coming in here. The presenter is going to let you know when you need to use your mirror. We may ask for volunteers, so please raise your hand to be recognized and we will, make you a star for a moment. At the end of the session, we're hoping to have some question and answer period. So please post your questions in the chat box and do it as a chat to all. I will be collecting the questions and then sharing them with Shira to answer at the end. If we run out of time, Shira is going to take the questions and respond to them at a later time.
Like in 2 years. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay, now to introduce our wonderful presenter, Shira Naftel. She is the founder of It's a Teachable Moment. She's an educational consultant who for the past 23 years has worked with school administrators, teachers, students, and parents in Muncie, New York. Shira has many years of training and experience with a variety of instructional techniques, including Linda Bell, the Slingerland approach, and Equipped for Reading Success. Mrs. Naftel engages the use of multisensory techniques to enhance educational outcomes in the areas of reading, spelling, and language comprehension. He has dedicated 18 summers to organizing and teaching a 4-week practicum class under the auspices of Slingerland Institute to empower teachers to meet the needs of their students. Mrs. Naftel is known for her practical, clear, and engaging presentation style. I think you're going to enjoy it this evening. Shira, welcome. It's all yours.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is very different. I've done a couple of classes on Zoom, and every time it's different. And, you know, I'm learning how to use technology and doing things that I didn't ever think I would ever need to do. I've been forced to do this. So I'm going to be showing you some different kinds of technology as I present tonight, which hopefully will be helpful to you if you might be using technology for this coming school year. I want to thank the Slingerland Institute for hosting this and for everything they've done for me. I want to thank Dr. Heinzs. She's on this webinar. And I want to thank Elise because she practiced and practiced with my technology. And she's been helping me for years, and I so appreciate it. And I want to welcome the teachers from wherever you are. I know you're from Utah and somebody from Hawaii and from Muncie, New York. Also, I wanted to thank the Community Education Center in Muncie, New York, who has co-sponsored this evening. A lot of the teachers from Muncie are on this webinar. I want to thank the administrators, welcome them for coming. Lavinia Mancuso from Everyone Reading in New York City is also on this call. I want to acknowledge her. Bev Wolf, I believe, who's a researcher, is going to be on this webinar. Nancy Cushion White. I wanted to make sure that everybody has their, I'll need to turn my head sometimes because my whole desk is covered with technology and I have my things neatly to the side. So when you see me turn and I'm not staring at you, that's why. So I wanted just to make sure that everybody does have the handouts. You will have this. We're going to be working with this. It says panel 1, panel 2, and it'll go together like this. So if you didn't put it together, you can lay it together on a flat surface. So that's one thing I just want to make sure before we start. And you should have these mouth pictures, right? Everybody has those. You should have the letters, okay? And the last thing I'm not going to even show, but we're going to send it to you after this evening. It will be a completed consonant mat. It's a completed one. So you'll have one that has all the mouth pictures in the right places, but you're going to be putting one together tonight as well. So that should be good. Okay, I'm going to talk through my technology as I do it. First of all, I do have a little, I made a little decoration for you all to see because I love to do that. It's going to be my little, let's see if I can get it better in view. Just a sec. Whoops, wrong direction. Okay, and if you can't see these quotes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read them to you. Okay, it was definitely clearer before. Let's see if I can get it a bit more clear. Okay. Okay, so one is, this is from Mrs. Slingerland. It's fun to see the brain work. That is from Mrs. Slingerland. And then I have one from Dr. David Kilpatrick, who is a friend of mine who I hold in very high esteem. I know Muncie people know that. And it says, when teaching children the letter sounds, we must learn to correctly pronounce the sounds in isolation. Dr. Kilpatrick is a researcher. He lives in Syracuse, New York. And I will show you now his book, just so you know. This is one of his books. I'm going to do some book recommendations tonight. Here's one book called Equipped for Reading Success, Dr. David Kilpatrick. Okay, you'll have my phone number at the end. Here's the other book he wrote, Essentials of Assessing, Preventing, and Overcoming Reading Difficulties. Highly recommended, must reading. Very important, okay? Okay. And my last quote, teacher knowledge before programs. Hi, Lavinia. Teacher knowledge before programs. It's the teachers that make the difference. And certainly when we have good programs, it's great, but it's the teacher knowledge that is going to really make a difference for the kids. Okay. Now I'm using my little thing. Okay. I'm going to now share my screen. You're going to see now my PowerPoint. That's what I'm going to show you first. Hopefully it works. So far it's working. Whoops. And I'm going to put it in slideshow mode. Okay, everybody could see it. So the only thing I didn't think about was these little pictures, but okay. So, ooh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm not sure why it's going dark, but so part one, the consonants, it's the science behind the letter sounds, back to basics, okay? And are you seeing my slide or is it turning dark?
We can see it.
We see it.
Okay.
See it.
Okay. So this slide is one of my favorite slides. It's all different researchers. And certainly there are many people that are not on, that I wanted to point out so people would know. This is Mrs. Slingerland. I'm going to use my arrow. And this is Bev Wolf. She is a researcher. She lives in Seattle. She's done a lot of research about handwriting and the importance of handwriting. This is Samuel Orton. Samuel Orton was certainly the beginning of all the work that we've done through Linda Mood Bell and Dr. Kilpatrick and Slingerland and Orton Gillingham. And this is Bessie Stillman and Anna Gillingham. This is Jean Chall that we had the pleasure, she's not alive anymore, but we had the pleasure of meeting her nephew this year. We had a reading league event. Another organization you should get hooked into, the Reading League in Syracuse. Here's Dr. David Kilpatrick, Dr. Shewitz, Louisa Moats. This is Linnea Airy. She came up with the theory of orthographic mapping, which we'll mention tonight. Here's Dr. Maria Murray. She lives in Syracuse. She runs the Reading League. And here at the bottom is Anita Blackman. Dr. Murray is a student of Anita Blackman. And are you seeing my slide now? Because all I'm seeing is black.
Yes, we're seing the slide, or at least I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1 sec. I'm going to go back. I don't know why that's happening, but okay. And then we have Dr. Seidenberg, who's another researcher. And he has a fantastic book that I recommend called Language at the Speed of, oh, you can't see that. Or can you see it? Yeah, you can.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Language at the Speed of Sight. Great book. Great book. Dr. Seidenberg, Mark Seidenberg. Okay. That's another one that highly recommended. Okay. So I want to show you my bottle. I want you to look closely at this bottle. Can you see it? And can you see that there is oil and water? So what we like to say is we need to take the water of education and the oil of science, and we need to mix it up. And that's what we're going to try to do tonight. And of course, I had to include my mask when we're talking about science. Science is a big topic nowadays. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Again, I'd recommend you to look into other organizations. The Slingerland Institute can provide support for you. The Reading League, Everyone Reading in Manhattan is also a resource, and International Dyslexia Association. Those are the 4 organizations. Certainly there are many more, but those were the 4 that I thought of for this evening. Okay, I'm going to now, I hope my slide will work. Okay. Okay, this is a picture when we could still go to events of myself with Mr. John Corcoran. And I call this slide Why We Care. Why do we care? Well, Mr. Corcoran here, he's a very astute businessman. He's now in his 80s. He didn't learn to read till he was 48. And we really would not choose for that to happen to somebody. And we want to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. So I like to show this picture that I was with him at the Reading League conference with his wife. This was 2 years ago. Here's what we know. We know that there's 40 years of research that converges on the science of reading, of which we're going to talk about a tiny bit tonight. We know that literacy rates in the United States of America remain low. We know that poor readers in 3rd grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of school and not to graduate. We know that dyslexia is associated with various social, emotional, and behavioral consequences that include an increased risk of poor health, unemployment or underemployment, shortened life expectancy, low income status, and incarceration. And we also know that people who don't read or don't read well lack joy in life because they do not have the joy of being able to read books. Okay, so we're here to learn what we can in a small way this evening to help to prevent and to have a solution for this problem that we have in this country of low literacy. Whoops, okay. So this is actually a picture of my father. I'm going to put my pointer. This is my father. My father actually passed away in January in Los Angeles. And this is him getting an award for 10,000 flight hours. And and also just look at their eyes, look at their passion, look at their mission, look at their pride at what they're doing, look at their service to the country. And 10,000 hours, that's about what it takes to begin to get good at a skill. So we have to be prepared as teachers and administrators to support the 10,000 hours that it takes to get really good at something. So that's just our reminder of the 10,000 hours. Okay. Whoops, I'm going to go back. I don't know, my thing is funny. Okay. So I got this idea from Dr. David Kilpatrick. He had a similar slide in one of his presentations. It's called the balancing rock. Okay. And phonemic awareness is the base that literacy is built on, phonemic awareness. It allows us to have fluent word recognition. It allows us to have reading comprehension. It allows us to engage in studying subjects like social studies, history, science, writing, math, English. It affects our behaviors and our attitudes. We talked about the dropout rate being very high. It affects our attitudes. It affects our goals in life. It affects career opportunities, job skills, higher education opportunities, self-confidence, and success in life. And today we're going to talk about an itty bitty topic, the phonemes, the individual sounds of the language that make up, that are the beginning of phonemic awareness and the beginning of orthographic mapping, which we'll address very little. I want you to think as we speak tonight about being sequential, being systematic, and that is really what Slingerland is to be sequential and systematic and understand what the research says and why it's saying it and how do we bring that research base into the classroom. Okay. Okay, there are 3 stages towards proficiency. And I know I didn't give you all the slides, but I gave you the important slides and I gave you space to write. 3 stages towards proficiency. First is multisensory. And why am I showing this picture? This picture is a picture of Lombard Street in San Francisco, probably in the 1960s or something, if you look at the cars. But in order to be able to drive down this street, first you would have had to learn how to drive a car before you ever got to this street. That would be your multisensory piece, where you would be in the car with your parent usually, and they would be teaching you how to drive, how to use the gas, how to use the brake, how to use my father taught me how to drive a stick shift after I learned how to on an automatic, which was challenging for him. And then we have the second part, which is, so multisensory is that we're learning to do the task. Once we know how to do the task, we're at the knowledge stage. And that's where we acquire our speed and our accuracy during that stage of development. And then we have the automatic stage, which means we can do any task or the task that we've learned with adequate speed and accuracy. It becomes a behind the scenes activity needing very little obvious attention, okay? And that is what the letter sounds need to become. That is what the naming of letters needs to become. That is what the 26 plus levels of phonological awareness that Dr. Kilpatrick has so amazingly put together for us. That's not our topic for this evening, but they need to be automatic, all those levels. Okay. So this is my little, to get us real, Virginia City, Nevada, 1885 8th grade school exam, some of the assessment topics. This is what they were training children in this school to become teachers, the girls to become teachers. This was Virginia City during the Comstock load. They actually were kind of a wealthy community, and this is the first school in the United States that had running water. It was 4 stories high. And some of the topics that they had in their exam were define alphabet, phonetic, orthography, etymology, syllabification. What are the elementary sounds and how are they classified? That's what we're going to be doing this evening. Give examples of a trigraph, subvocal, diphthong, cognate letter, and a lingual. Define the following prefixes. Okay, use these words correctly in a sentence and mark diacritically and divide into syllables these words. So you could see they were teaching this to them so they could be explicit, systematic teachers when they got out of school, okay? And I want to read you a quote from the Territorial Enterprise from October 15th, 1876. The pride of Virginia is the new schoolhouse which is going up on the divide. It is our pride today. The time is not far distant when it will be our glory as well. The people of the whole world are waking up to the fact that it is cheaper to build and maintain schoolhouses than jails. That was a quote from 1876. Okay. Okay. So the elusive phoneme is a bit tricky. It is elusive. Phonemes are elusive. We do not speak in phoneme. We speak in a speech stream. And that we are even able to pull out phonemes is kind of a psychological abstraction. A physiological abstraction. Because when we speak, we don't speak and we do not say cat. We say cat. And I'm going to show you, the picture you see in front of you is the picture of me saying cat. And notice there's no white spaces there, which means that the phonemes collide one on top of the other. The word that we say is, they co-articulate together. So, that is what they do. And this is a special human quality to be able to pull out these individual sounds. It's unique to the human brain. So, and it's very miraculous that we can do this at all. So it's not easy. Okay. Okay, for some reason my screen. Are you seeing my slide?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to play with it because it's just doing something funny. Okay, let's start at the very beginning. Okay, fundamentals first. Okay, the skill must precede creativity. The fundamentals need to come before the fancy stuff. So we need the fundamentals of what we're doing. Then we can be creative with what we know. Okay, so what do we want to know about phonemes? A phoneme is the smallest unit of sight, sound, and feel. Okay, And first perceptions are we perceive sounds via our oral motor pathways or the speech organs. That's how we first perceive sounds. The alphabetic principle is what links the phoneme with the grapheme or the phoneme with the letter. So it's a matchup between the phoneme and the letter, okay? And the accurate production of individual letter sounds or the phonemes is very important. This evening's presentation is based on the parameters of American Standard Pronunciation. And we do understand that there is something called dialect. So people do pronounce things a little bit differently depending on where they live. And we also understand that because the sounds co-articulate onto each other, the sounds will be different, but in isolation, we're going to be staying with standard American pronunciation of those sounds. Okay, and we're going to ensure student success during the early stages of the reading process and beyond. And so we need to know this to be able to pronounce the sounds correctly so we can assess our students, accurate assessment of our students, develop accurate letter sound skills with them. Their phonological development is not limited just to auditory stimulation. It incorporates oral motor feedback. For people with good phonological awareness, they do key into the oral motor feedback of their mouths. We're aiming towards fluent and automatic oral blending. If you don't say your sounds properly, then if you're going to read a word like cat and you think that the k says ka, you end up reading it like ka, ta, and then you have to drop that sound because that's not really there. So for blending purposes, we need to make sure that we're making our sounds correctly. And very importantly, this skill gets us ready for something called orthographic mapping. And orthographic mapping is the ability to permanently store a word and then to be able to automatically retrieve that word, okay? We cannot get that storage from phonics. Storage only comes through orthographic mapping, and phonics gives us word identification, but it doesn't solve our storage problem. Good readers store thousands and thousands of words, but not via sight. It's via sound and then matching what we know the sound to be to what we see on the page. So I'm going to do my very quick 1 minute show on how to understand. I'm going to stop my share. Hopefully my thing will be good to me. Okay. And I think you can you see this? Okay. This is our right side and our left side of our brain, right and left. And here is the word cat. Now, if you notice, it has those little strike marks. That means sound. So this means you have heard this word. You're a little child. You've heard the word. You've used the word. You've used the word. You have not seen the word yet in print, but you've got it in your oral language, and it's in your oral lexicon in your brain, which is on the left side, okay? One beautiful day, your teacher sits you down with a book, and she begins to show you the word cat. So you begin to read it, and as you read it, excitingly, the letter attaches to the sound in your brain, and the letter maps to those sounds in your oral language, and you have now mapped that word forevermore. You will never lose that word. That word will be permanently mapped in your brain forever and ever. It usually takes about 2 passes through the word, assuming it's in your oral vocabulary. And that is what orthographic mapping, very simplistic. More about that in Dr. Kilpatrick's book. And Linnea Airy is the researcher that actually developed the theory. And if anybody wants to hop in and say that they might know more than I know about that, they could, okay? Okay, I'm gonna share my screen once again. Okay. Okay, good. Did it. Okay. Okay. Second. So I just want to quickly.
Hello? Hello?
Somebody-
Hello? I'm on a webinar, but I have a.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna switch my slide. Okay. Did we? Okay. 1 second, my thing went funny. Okay. Okay. For some reason, okay, 1 sec. Okay. Best teaching practices to empower all learners, small steps towards independence. Okay. First, understand what you are learning and why. So in Lindemann Bell, we call this setting the climate. And I'm going to show you in a minute when I switch to my document camera, what that looks like very briefly, so that children or you as my students right now understand what you're doing and why we're doing it. We're going to use concrete oral motor sensory input to verify, support, and strengthen auditory perception. Okay, we're going to utilize a discovery dialogue to support the development of sensory cognitive function. Okay, sensory cognitive means we get information from our senses around us and then we think about that information. We're going to see tonight when I work, hopefully with a couple of you, responding to the response, which means we meet the student where the student is, enable self-correction through questioning, not telling, verify input using the check if we are matching language, and encourage learners to check their thinking as they try to reason through tasks, and error handling. Error handling is not telling them exactly how to fix the problem, but asking questions to get them to be able to correct it on their own so they become independent learners. Also, development of metacognition using Socratic questioning is going to be very important. Okay. Okay. One sec. Just want to make sure that okay. I wanted to talk to you for 1 minute about the importance of categorizing. One of the things we're going to be doing this evening is we're going to categorize the speech sounds. And Mark Seidenberg, Dr. Seidenberg, who I showed you the book, talks about the importance of categorization and why that is so important. Because when we categorize information, we file it away in an organized fashion so then we can then retrieve it. Interestingly, one of the first opportunities children have to categorize the language is with the letters and the names of the letters. So I made up this little card to show you. I'm going to stop my share for a minute. So I made up this little card that shows you, like, if you have the letter A, under the letter category A, you might have a cursive A, you might have a capital A, you might have a uppercase cursive, you might have the funny A that they make in the book, but it's all categorization. And that is why the letter names become so critical for children to know. One of the reasons, and also that it helps them to get the sound, but it also helps them to categorize, have that experience of categorizing information so that they become efficient learners. Okay, I'm going to go back. Okay. Okay. So we are now going to work on discovering the consonants. We're going to be setting the climate. We're going to be talking about voiced and unvoiced consonants. Plosive and continuant's going to be one of our vocabulary words, meaning is it a stopped consonant? Does it pop out, or is it continuant? Does it continue as long as you hold your breath? Also, the developmental order of phoneme introduction will be important. We're going to mention that certain sounds develop before others. So we will be actually introducing them in order of what we consider to be the usual development of the phonemes, of the consonants, but we will also be categorizing them in a little different way. We're going to identify, right, and categorize according to certain aspects, which you're going to see. You'll definitely want to have your mirror with you so that you can check. Just so you have a few of the details, we'll be using a discovery process that is quite scientific, based in speech pathology. But it's a friendly, the labels we will give will be friendly labels that even children can attach it to. There are 8 consonant pairs in the English language. The pairs are they are exactly the same, except one is voiced and one is not voiced. We will experience that. A total of 14 letters. There are 3 consonants that are cousins, and we'll talk about that. And we have 24 consonant sounds in total in the English language, and about 17 of those consonants only make one sound. Okay. So practice makes perfect, and we're going to do this, and then we're going to practice. We're going to do it at the end. Okay. And then I'm almost ready to share so the brother pairs, that's where we're going to go now. We're going to talk only about the brother pairs. And I did put this in for you. It doesn't match. It's very close to the order that we're going to do it this evening. So you begin to see what is developmentally appropriate. Like, for example, when somebody called me about my 2-year-old granddaughter and said something's wrong with her, she doesn't make the L sound. And I said, really? And I went and looked it up, of course. And I said, wow, well, you're not really supposed to make that sound until you're about 5. So in point of fact, she speaks very clearly, but it's important for us to know how sounds develop and what would be approximate age that we would expect these speech sounds to develop for children. Okay. And now I'm going to go to my I'm going to go to my document camera. So everybody knows I'm going to stop this share. And I'm going to share my document camera. So just so you know, a document camera, maybe you know, or maybe you don't, what we were using before, can everybody see that clearly? Elise, can you just give me a verbal? Elise?
Yes, you can hear me?
Yeah. Are you seeing it and we're good? If you can stay, if you stay unmuted, that would be super. Okay, so this is my document camera you're seeing now. Okay, so what I've been able to do is I have a second camera that actually lets me show anything under it, 3-dimensional objects. I'm teaching a student about an hour and a half from my house. I'm able to do touching blocks for phonemes with that student. Because I can use my document camera. So it's a nice tool to be able to have. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do this evening is we're gonna do something called setting the climate, okay? Setting the climate lets us think about why we're doing and what we're doing. So, so my first question to my student would be, and I'm gonna do this very quickly with you because we're doing it for you to learn the sounds, not to teach it to your students yet. That would be a different kind of a class. But I would ask my students, how do you get information about the world around you? And first I would say, actually, what's on top of your head, okay? And they hopefully would say their brain, and I would make a little brain. And then I would say to them, that's nice. How do you get information around the world around us? Of course, about the world around us. And of course, I'm looking for 5 senses. That's what we're looking for. And as they tell me the senses, we're gonna draw them here, okay? And we talk about how usually the senses that we use the most would be in school, would be your hearing and your seeing and your feeling sense. And that now, for right now, we're going to focus on, and we are, the feeling in our mouth. That's what we're going to focus on right now. For this evening, we're going to talk about the feeling in our mouth, how our mouths feel when we make sounds. And we even get into a little brain talk, simplistic. We talk about the areas of the brain, and maybe we say, okay, the back area usually is for vision. This is very simplistic. This area is usually for hearing. This is very simplistic. This would be for feeling. So we might put our mouth for this, or our hand for handwriting, because that's a feeling thing as well. And then the front area we talk about with them is our executive function. And we talk a lot about who is your conductor, who is responsible for your learning, and who's going to make it happen with the teacher. And so that's the setting of the climate. Why am I showing this to you? It's very important that we always set the climate with the kids and let them know why we're doing what we're doing and why we're doing it. And after we do the longer one, this one, we do a short one every day and say, what are we doing and why are we here? What are we trying to do for you? Okay. So this is a very useful thing to be able to use for any topic that you're doing. Okay, here we are. We are with the consonants. Okay. So what I would like to do is I would first like you to have your mirror. I'm going to, okay, let's see. I can make it a little smaller. Elise, what would be the best way for me to just see him for a minute? Can I just shrink it down and it won't go away?
To see what? What are you trying to see?
I want to see the people.
Oh, so, go back to gallery view. If you can.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's good.
I could just shrink it down and and I can bring it back up, or
you should be able to shrink it down, but
you know what? I'm going to stop share for a minute. Okay, fine. Okay, so here's my mirror. This is my favorite kind of mirror. Dr. Heinz has my other mirror. Well, if you were with me in person, my volunteers get gifts, and the gifts are usually mirrors or purple pens because I wear purple glasses. I do a lot of purple. Okay. So this is my favorite mirror because of its size. This is the mirror I give as a present, and I'll show you why I don't like it as much. Do you see why? It's too floppy. Fine for you all, not the best for kids. Okay, so this is big enough that it shows their mouth, but it doesn't show the rest of their face. Okay, so you're going to need your mirror, and I'm wondering if I could please have a volunteer at this point. Who would like to would Dr. White like to volunteer?
Okay, I'll try.
Oh, this is good. I'll send you a pen. Okay, a purple pen, a pen. Okay, so my first question is going to be, and everybody will do this with me. I want you to put your hands, I want you to say two sounds. I want you to first say, everybody, I can see you, and you can look in your mirrors. Now I want you to say, and I want you to tell me what is different about those two sounds.
The vibration.
The vibration, yes, absolutely. If you look in your mirror, you're going to see that your mouth does exactly the same thing on both those sounds, and the only difference is the vibration. And when you say vibration, Dr. White, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I'm using my vocal cords.
You're using your vocal cords. Okay. I want everybody to put their hand on their throat. It's better not to use the tips, but to use the flat of your hand. And I want everybody to make the one that isn't voiced, where your vocal cords are not working. And now I want you to say, does everybody feel the vocal cords working? If you wouldn't feel them, or if you would work with a student and they wouldn't feel them, there's a couple things that can help with the feeling. One is to blindfold them, because sometimes when you take away sight, they focus in on the feeling part in their mouths. Usually we only do it a couple times and they get much better at feeling it. Or cup your hands over your ear and make the two sounds, and you're going to feel it's very intensified when you do that. You feel that? Okay. Okay. So we've just established something that we call, the technical term would be voiced and unvoiced. And that is your vocal cords are either moving or they're not. Okay. That's what the vibration is. And, but if we want to use a friendly term, we could say they're quiet or noisy. Okay. I'm going to be using quiet and noisy this evening, but you could say voiced and unvoiced. And sometimes we teach both to the kids. That's what we do. Okay, so I would like, Dr. White, would you continue on with me? I want you to say the sound. I want everybody to say it.
I have to move the pictures. I can't see your mouth. Just a second.
Oh,
Okay.
that probably is the first time somebody said they can't see my mouth. I'm pretty,
Oh, well, just okay. Okay, now I can.
Okay. I want everybody to say that. And I want you to tell me what's working. Is it your lips or your tongue?
My lips.
Your lips are working. I agree that your lips are working. Great. How are they working? Are they popping? Like, what's happening with them?
They're coming together and they're popping.
Great. They're coming together and they're popping. And if I was to show you this picture, or all of you, would you say that that looks like your lips are popping? Would you all agree that that would be good for that? We would usually give kids a choice, but tonight, because we're pressed for time, I'm going to tell you that this is the lip popper picture, and the lips are popping and there's a little puff of air coming out, and that shows us the lip popper. Okay. So I'm going to now put it on I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to place it right here on my chart. Okay. All right. Now, Dr. White, can you still see me?
No.
No. Okay. So I'm going to stop my share for a minute. Okay. Now I want you to tell me when you say the sound, or everybody's going to say it. I want you to tell me, is it quiet or noisy? You will know by checking where your vocal cords are. Check.
It's no voice. It's quiet.
No voice. Raise your hand if you're on video and tell me if you agree it is quiet. Raise your hand if you agree it is quiet. I agree. Okay. And I would say, what letter do you think that would be?
Can I be right?
You better be.
P.
I agree. Okay. So we're going to put P here. And we're going to have a noisy brother. These are the brother pairs. So they're exactly the same, but it's a noisy brother. What would the noisy brother be?
B.
That was a hint. Okay. B. I want everybody to check and make sure it's noisy. B. 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 Good. Okay. So you've got quiet and noisy. Great. Okay. Now I'm going to do the next one. Okay. But everybody's doing it with me. And your mirrors. Don't forget your mirrors. These are your tools. It's like if you were a spelunker, you would have rope, you would have a flashlight, and maybe, I don't know, a canary. Now all you need is a mirror. So everybody has one. Okay. I want you to say, t, 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 t. And I want you to notice whether your tongue or your lips are working. And I'm going to talk it through because it's, we can't be so interactive on all of them, or we'll be here till midnight, but which wouldn't be terrible. But okay, so we say, t, 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 and I believe that our tip of our tongue is tapping. Would you agree to that? And if I were to use this for my tip tapper picture, oh, whoops, I need to share my screen. I'm so sorry. Okay, this is my tip tapper picture. And do you think I forgot to ask you, if this is a lip popper, did I put it in the right row? Can somebody tell me? Yes? Right. So a tip tapper picture, where do you think that would go? Would it go in the tongue row, or would it go in the air row? What do you think?
Tongue.
It would go in the tongue because the tongue is active. And probably if I say to you, you would think it's a T. Would it be quiet or noisy?
Quiet.
Quiet. Great. I love that you're unmuted and all responding. That would be the best for me if you would do that. And then the next question is, does anybody know what its noisy brother might be?
D, d, d.
D. That is right. Okay. Now notice, I want to just say a couple of little things because it's really important. When you say P, you have no vowel sound. Am I right about that? I'm backing up one now. But when you say B, there is like a vowel built in. The way we diminish the sound is by holding our chin very tight. We don't let it drop. Try to say it like this. B.
B.
Versus ba. Okay, do you see how you clip that? You want to clip the vowel right off of it so it's not prominent when you say it. Okay, and the same is with d. We don't want da, we want d, d. Notice my chin
D.
is not moving when we say it. Okay, okay, great. Okay, next one is, who could help me? How about Lavinia? Good thing I know some people. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I want you to say the sound k, 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 and tell me what's working. Is it your lips or your tongue?
It's my tongue and my throat.
Okay, good perception. Okay, it is your tongue, and what's actually happening is your tongue is scraping not all the way down in the throat, but far back in the mouth. Okay, that is how we make that sound. Okay, and I'm gonna show you my tongue scraper picture. We're gonna put it where it goes. Okay, so Lavinia, do you think it would go in my lip row, my tongue row? Where should I put it?
Well, definitely the tongue or the air row because of what's going on in the throat. But probably
because you feel and you see that there's air coming out, right? Okay,
Yeah.
That's very good thinking, very wise. Okay, but we're going to focus on its main feature, which would be that if I would ask you again, your tongue or your lips, what are working, what would you say?
oh, definitely my tongue.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to put it here. Okay, so we've got now 2 in the tongue row. And when I say k, what letter are you thinking?
K or C.
Good. So K would be our first choice. Okay. And then what do you think its noisy brother might be?
G.
G. Uh-huh. And when you say, when we say G, we're going to, again, not let our jaw drop. So we're at G, G, G. If you realize how important this is, we're going to have to get it right. So we're really happy we're practicing it because this affects everything you do with students.
Yes.
It affects assessment. It affects teaching. It affects your ability to diagnose the problem. In other words, if a student's mixing up the B and a P, we know there may be some issues with perception of noisy quiet. Okay. There's so much we know by understanding about these speech sounds. Okay. So, and when we say, I said when we say G, we hold the jaw tight. G, G. Okay. Good. Okay. Next. Maybe we can all do it together. Okay. The sound is, I want you to lick your lips. If you had mints, that would be good. But if you have it, you could eat one. But lick your lips and say. So tell me what's working, everybody. Your lips or your tongue?
Your lips and your teeth.
Your lips and your teeth. Yeah. So so we could say our lips are working. And what's coming over your lips?
Air.
Air.
Hot air or cool air? Lick your lips, lick them up, and now do it. Hot air or cool air?
Cool.
Cool.
Cool. So we're going to call it a lip cooler. That's what we're going to call it, a lip cooler. And notice how each of the the names really gives you a picture of what we're talking about. So it's powerful in that way. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to put our lip. So do you agree that our lip cooler should go in the lip row? Is everybody feeling like that would be a good choice? I'm thinking it would be, so we'll just do it that way. Okay, and what letter are you thinking for quiet lip cooler? For quiet, check your throat.
F.
I think you're right. F, right. And what would be, if you turn on your vocal cords, what would be the noisy breather? Now, the reason you could turn your vocal cords on is we've shifted to a different type of a sound now than the other ones. The other ones, they had a puff of air coming out. Does this have a puff of air coming out when you say, or is it more of a stream, a continuous stream of air? What would you think? It's continuous, yeah. So you can turn your vocal cords on really easy on the continuous ones, because start with the quiet. And you can turn your vocal cords on. What letter do you think that would be?
V.
V, yes, I agree with you. Okay. We are making good tracks here. Okay. Oh, wait, I didn't want to do that. Okay. Oh, 1 second. There you go. Okay. Oh, this is looking wonderful. Okay. Now I want to ask, who would be a volunteer? Can somebody raise their hand and be very brave and be a volunteer?
Sure.
Oh, thank you very much. Where are you from?
Seattle, Washington.
Oh, Seattle. Okay. I'm originally from California, actually, from Sacramento. So I got here by mistake. I don't know how. Okay.
I have a family house in Fillmore, so.
Oh, okay.
California.
Okay, so now I want everybody to say, and I want you to tell me what's working, your lips or your tongue?
Tongue.
Tongue.
Tongue. And do you feel air coming over your tongue?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Is it cool or is it warm air?
Cool.
Feels cool.
Cool air. So if we would call it a lip cooler, would that feel like that would be an appropriate name?
Tongue cooler?
Yeah.
I mean, a tongue cooler. I'm so sorry. A tongue cooler.
Yeah.
Whoever just corrected me gets a prize. They get a prize. Okay. 1 second. And I would put it in the tongue row. The tongues definitely have it here. Okay. And now I want you to tell me, Lynn, is that your name, Lynn?
Yes, it is.
If you say, what letter are you thinking, or letters are you thinking for that?
TH.
Yes, I agree with you. And would it be a plosive or a continuant? Is it a stopped or a continuant sound?
Continuant.
Yes, I agree. Good. And what would its noisy brother be?
D.
Yeah, do you feel yeah, and it's the same letters. And I have a little line under it to show that it's noisy, because that's, oh wait, I'm not sharing, I forgot. Oh, I'm gonna be tired when I finish this, okay. Can you see my screen well on my document camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of a cool thing to be able to use, because you can do all this while you're teaching kids. Okay, so thank you so much. That was great. Okay, the next group we're going to talk about. So far, we're still all brother pairs, right? One is noisy, one is quiet. Okay. We're going to talk about now the air sounds. And I'm kind of going to just talk them through, because I want to make sure we get to the end of our goal tonight, which is making sure we practice all of our sounds. So the air sounds, there's like 3 varieties. One is a skinny air, one is a fat air, and one is a fat air push, okay? And it has a lot to do with how my lips look. So I'm going to make the skinny air sound for you. And I want you to look if my lips are skinny or fat. Compared to,
Skinny.
Where do your lips feel fatter? Or where do they? Mhm. And if you were to put your hand in front, you would feel the air was skinnier on and then on it's fatter. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to once again place my tiles. And if I would give you a choice, you'll see that this is skinny air, because look at that, there's a skinny amount of air coming out compared to that, okay? And do you think that would go in the lip row, the tongue row, or the air row?
Air.
The air, I agree. Okay, and so we've got our skinny air, and somebody tell me if I have put my sounds down correctly. How do you think about that? Okay, can everybody make the quiet skinny air sound for me? I'm listening. And can everybody make the noisy skinny air for me? Yeah, that is really noisy. Okay, next we said we have our fat air sound, and we demonstrated it already. Okay, and what letter or letters are you thinking for shh? Somebody yell it out.
SH.
SH, yep. And if you say shh and turn on your vocal cords, what sound do you think you're going to get? Let's do it. Yes. What are some words that have the zh sound in it? Can somebody tell me?
Vision.
What?
Vision.
Vision. Good. What else?
Leisure.
Good. How about measure? Treasure. That's French, that beautiful French sound. But this is how it looks. We don't spell it that way, but this is how we spell it for our phoneme. That is our symbol. So we know that is the noisy one. Okay. Just out of curiosity, would this be a plosive or a continuant sound?
Continuant.
Yes, yes. Okay. Now we have one that I want to talk about for a minute, because I noticed some people kind of make it funny. Okay, so we have a skinny air, we have a fat air, and then we have something called a fat air pushed. So I'm going to make it for you, and I want you to make it after me. I want you to throw it out of your mouth. And make sure you're not voicing, because if you're voicing, then you're getting its noisy brother, which would be what? Yes, very good. Okay.
No.
Just a sec. So here we are, and you see the lips are fat, but it's different because there's a puff of air coming out, right? So that's a little different. And what letter or letters are you thinking for ch?
CH.
CH, good. And what about j? J.
J.
Notice that if you elongate this too much, you get this. So if you don't pop it out, you get something more like this. If you don't pop this out, you get something more like this. So we want to not make that mistake, because then they get confused by that. And of course, we would be teaching kids, if we were doing this, that these are digraphs. We're going to give them the language of the language so that they learn how to talk scientifically about reading, because it's very concrete and they can learn those words. I'm working with a little boy up again, the same little boy. He hasn't changed since 20 minutes ago. And he's all excited because he's learning all the language, the terms for the language. We're making sure he has that. Nobody ever taught it to him before. Okay, we have now completed all the brother pairs. So the brother pairs, notice they're underneath the brother, and you can take notes on your sheet all over, whatever you want. These are the brother pairs. Now we're going to move into something called the cousins. Okay. And the cousins, the brother pairs were exactly the same, but one thing made them different. And what was that?
Voicing.
The voicing or lack thereof of voicing, correct. Now we're looking at some sounds that they might all be noisy, but they, instead of having one thing the same and one thing that's different, they have something that holds them together as a group that they have in common. Okay. So the first thing, and I know that this might upset some people, this one, so we'll be calm about it. Okay. So the first sound is, everybody make that sound. I want everybody to plug their nose. Plug your nose. Can you make that sound when your nose is plugged?
No.
No. Okay. So you kind of could figure we might be calling these the nose sounds. Okay. The nose sounds. Okay. So what is happening there? Your tongue is in the front of your mouth. It blocks the air and it redirects it through your nose. And when you say, where do you feel your tongue? Do you feel your tongue pushed against your teeth or in the back, lifted up? Where do you feel it? Do you feel your tongue against in the front or in the back?
Back.
You feel it in the back? Okay, so I'm going to make another sound and I'm going to let you compare it. I'm going to tell you to make this sound, and I want you to make this sound. Now I want you to tell me which one works in the front, the or the which one? Yes, okay, very good. Okay, so we're going to put this sound down. I'm going to show it to you in a minute, but I want to talk about it. And what letter do you think that's going to be? What letter?
M.
Is it noisy or quiet?
Noisy.
Do you feel vibration? Make sure you've got your hand on your throat. Don't choke, but good. Now I want you to say, and I want you to plug your nose. Yeah, make it so it's a nose sound, right? I didn't make a mistake. Okay, now is your tongue in the front or is it in the middle of your upper part of your mouth? Where is it now?
Front.
Close your eyes and feel. Where do you feel it? Do you feel it pushed against the front of your teeth or in kind of moving up into the middle of the roof of the mouth? Hello.
Front.
Do you, Dr. Heinzs, do you feel it in the middle or the front? Let's compare it. Which way is your tongue working? Is it moving further to the front or further to the back with that? What do you think?
Further to the back.
It is. It's actually kind of moving to the middle of your palate. So we're going to call that one a middle nose sound. The first one was a front nose sound because it was right. Your teeth were your tongue was right up against your teeth. And this we're going to call a middle nose sound. Okay. Now this one is the third nose sound, or the third nasal sound would be its technical term. And all that's happening is your tongue is lifting and staying up. So I want you to say, and it's very nasal. In your mouth, be unladylike. Okay, so now I'm going to share, and I don't want you to be nervous about this because I know some people get a little nervous. Look, do you see what the picture for the sound is? Okay, it has a G, but we don't pronounce that G. It's just to differentiate this from this. So the G is added and it reminds us to hold our tongue up in the back. Like when we make a scraper, our tongue is up in the back and it comes down. This reminds us that it's also working in the back of your mouth. Okay. So how do you guys feel about that one? Is that a surprise to anybody that? So I want to practice this one time. Your best nose sound starting at the front. Okay. It's going to be no G sound. No G sound. Okay. Okay. Almost getting to the end of our consonants. Okay. The next group is called the wind sounds. Okay. Because there's not a lot of anything impeding them. They just sort of come out. Okay. So I'm going to make the sound and I want you to make it after me. And it's a cousin. So they all have something in common, not quiet, noisy. By the way, the and the are those quiet or noisy?
Noisy.
Quiet or noisy?
Noisy.
Noisy.
It's amazing how fun this could be when you're sitting in your house and talk. People think you're talking to yourself, but they're all noisy. Yeah, because they're cousins. They have something in common, but it's not quiet and noisy. Okay. Now I want you to say woo.
Ooh.
Okay. Now what I want to say about that sound is that Pat Lindemood, which you will be getting, we're going to send you guys. She's not alive anymore. She was the one that with her husband created the LIPS program. She was a speech pathologist. He was a linguist. So they had some background in the language. She created the program and she made a recording of all the sounds. We're going to be forwarding that to you at the end so you can hear her. It's probably the most perfect recitation of the sounds that you'll ever hear. But so why did I just tell you that? She says "wah." So if you say "wah," it is fine with me because if she said it, it's good enough. But I like "woo" because it reduces the vowel sound. So I would stick with "woo." But if some kid came and said "wah," and I would say, okay, that's all right. Okay. So "woo," you have roundedness. Is it quiet or noisy?
Noisy.
Yeah, it's noisy. I'm going to share my screen for a minute. Or for more than a minute. Okay. Here's I'm leaving this blank for a reason. Here's our wind. We call them the wind sounds. Okay. And what letter do you think that would be?
W.
I agree. Right. And we said, okay. And then we've got this. We've got the, everybody make that sound. Quiet or noisy?
Quiet.
Quiet.
Quiet, yeah. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to put your hand near your face, near your mouth. I usually turn it backwards. I say woo. And
Ooh.
where do you feel more air? Where do you feel more air when you say woo? Or where do you feel more air?
Ha.
On the sound? I agree. So we might call this the least windy, and this is the middle windy. And then we've got this guy. We've got this guy. This guy is, now in America, well, we do a lot of things different here, but in America, we don't really differentiate so much between the W and the WH in speaking. But this is really important to know that it is two different sounds. So when you do spelling with kids, especially question words and stuff, and those types of words, then you've got this as an anchor to say it's a different sound. And if you listen to Pat Lindemood speak on a video, she did used to speak like this. She would say, "Where do you feel it?" and "What are you feeling?" So, and this is a digraph, a trigraph. What do you think?
Diagram.
Yes, yes. But does it have a voice? Are your vocal cords working?
No.
No, they're not. So we want to make sure when we teach the sound in isolation that we don't use our vocal cords. And that would be the most windy. I'm going to prove it to you. Everything is provable. This is all science, right? Okay. Well, good science. Okay, here we go. Put your hand up. I want you to say "woo" after me. Woo.
Ooh.
And you should feel most of the air, the most amount of air on. So we would call it the least windy, middle windy, and the most windy. The last sound. Then people get nervous about this one. So we'll try not to. Okay, here we go. It's oh. All I want you to do to make the sound is your front of your tongue is going to lift and hold it up. Oh.
Oh.
Now I want you to say you can round your mouth a little. Oh.
Oh.
I want everybody to take their hand and do that. Oh. Oh.
Oh.
That gets you in the best position to make that sound. And when you say you can round up a little, okay, your lips a little bit. But if you don't, it's also okay. Okay, so here is our, we're gonna call it the lifter, okay? Is quiet or noisy?
Noisy.
Oh, it's noisy.
Do you feel your vocal cords working? Yeah, and do you think that the first letter, what are you thinking for
Oh.
Uh-huh. So we call that a front lifter, and would be our back lifter. Okay. Wow, that is nice. Okay, I'm going to take a picture of that so we can send that on later. These are the little tiles I have from Lynn and Bell. They don't sell them anymore because, you know, now they do everything, I don't know, out of paper or something. But in the olden days, they used to do it. Okay, I took a picture for you all. Okay, so we've now completed our consonants, our brothers, and our cousins. Okay, but I want to add a teeny bit more, and we will finish on time. I want to go back for a minute to our, I'm going to stop my share. I have to talk through this every time because I get like kind of confused about, I'm stopping my share and I'm actually going to now go back to my PowerPoint. Elise, how am I doing?
You're doing great.
So far, so good.
Yes.
Okay,
Awesome.
so we're gonna go to the next slide if it works. It keeps skipping. I don't know what's, are you, okay, one sec. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna, let's see if I can go forward. Okay, actually want to go back one. I don't know why it's not showing my slide. Okay. And the cousins. Okay, wait 1 second. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure that I didn't skip here. Okay, so here we have it all together, and you do have that slide, but you also have just done it, and we're going to give you a completed mat. We're going to send that to you, so you'll have it. So here is all of it together, grouped. Notice how we've now categorized in a few different ways, right? We've had noisy and quiet, all right? We've also had the lip, the tongue, and the arrow, and then the cousins. So we've got some categorization going on here, a categorization of the speech sounds, and that's very helpful to the kids when we do that. Okay, now I want to talk just a minute about the borrowers, because we have a few letters that don't have their own unique sound. They borrow sounds. Okay. And I'm only going to spend a brief amount of time on that. Okay, so we have a few letters that borrow sounds. So one of them is this guy. Does anybody know what sounds this guy borrows? What's its main sound?
K and S.
So it's a quiet tongue scraper. And then it might make what other sound?
S, s, s.
When does it do that?
When there's an I after it?
An I, an E, or a Y, okay? And it's pretty consistent. So that would be our first borrower because it either makes a scraper or a skinny air sound. It doesn't have its own sound, unique sound, okay? And I'm going to show this to you in a minute. I'm just holding them up. And then we have this guy. So what would be the most common sound for this one?
X, x,
And why is that unique? Why is this letter unique, this sound unique?
Two sounds together? X.
Yeah, you have two phonemes together. That's the only letter in the English language that has two phonemes with one grapheme, okay? Good. And so a lot of the times it says x, which is a scraper and a skinny air, but it also could say in the middle of a word like executive, it could say like a a G and a Z sound, a noisy scraper and a noisy skinny air. And, or in exercise, it would be a quiet scraper and a quiet skinny air. So the quiets always stay together and the noisy. And just out of just interest, if you think about the language, if you have the word cat, right? And what does that word end with? What's the final phoneme in cat? Mhm. And then if you put an S at the end to make it plural, what sound would that make?
Cats.
It would make, so if a T is quiet, the S has to be what? Quiet, right? But like dog ends in what sound?
Oh,
The-
Z.
It ends in
Z.
the, and if you add a
Okay.
plural, it has to match up because you can't say it. It's
Z.
just the convention of the language that really helps kids to understand that. You couldn't say it if it was doggus, right? Or if it was cats, that wouldn't work, right? Okay. And also X could be sometimes at the beginning, very frequent, xylophone. That's very frequent. That's really high frequent. And then frequency. And then we have, and if it's hyphenated like X-ray, okay, which is also very unusual. But, and then we have Y. So Y at the beginning of the word would be a consonant. And it actually, linguists would argue it's a sound of an E. Like if you say yellow, we didn't talk about the vowels tonight, but you actually go into a smile when you say yellow. So linguists would say it's actually an E sound at the beginning. Now at the end of a one syllable word, dry, what would it say there?
I.
I. What would it say in the middle of a word like gym, short for gymnasium?
I.
Yeah. What would it
Yeah.
say at the end of a two syllable word?
E. Baby.
Yeah, it says
E.
E. Okay, so those are the sounds. And then our last one is this guy. QU almost
Qua.
always comes together except in names, sometimes Qatar and things like that. It usually comes together. And what does it say?
Qua.
Yeah, you could say qua or you could say ku. I think qua would be more, I mean, even though we say it's woo, it would maybe be easier. And here are your borrowers. And I will take a little picture so we can send it. Okay. Okay, now I want to show you another cute little thing. Because, you know, we're all about cute, but I want to make sure we finish. We will. I'm going to put this here for a minute. If we have time at the end, we'll do this the other thing. I'm going to stop my share on this. And I'm going to finish my little PowerPoint. Okay. Now we have, I hope it will. Elise, do you see it?
Yes, I do.
No.
Borrow.
Okay. Okay, so we have now, you see wrapping it all up, right? I just want to make sure we're on the same thing. Okay, so wrapping it all up, know your letter sounds, internalize the lesson of the balancing rock. Make sure that you have your basic things in order before you're creative. Make sure you know what you're doing, you're systematic. Understand the 3 stages of task proficiency that we talked about. The multi-sensory stage, the knowledge stage, and the automatic stage. Utilize best teaching practices, which again is research-based, what the science tells us about how we read. Apply what you know about sounds to your literacy instruction and keep learning. Okay, and I'm going to end with a little story, one of my favorite stories. The educational message of Miracle on the Hudson. And I think it applies to everything that we're currently going through that we've kind of forgotten about for the last hour and a half, that we're in the middle of a pandemic, that we kind of forgot that. Okay, so it's a teachable moment. Miracle on the Hudson. It's January 15th, 2009. US Airways flight 1549 takes off from LaGuardia Airport. It's a very cold day. 150 passengers and 5 crew members are on the flight. Notice how I picked this story because of my father, you know. Captain Sullenberger is an Air Force pilot, a past Air Force pilot, safety expert, and he's logged almost 19,000 hours of flight time. 3 minutes into the climb at an altitude of 3,000 feet, the windshields are darkened, there's a loud thud, and both the engines fail. He decides to land, which is called ditching, in the Hudson River. The total flight time was 6 minutes from start to finish. They all survived, and yes, it was a great miracle. There's a little more to the story. A year later, they brought him back to the side of the Hudson River, and they said to him, "What were you thinking when you landed the plane? What was your thought when you landed that plane?" He said, "I'll tell you the story of my life. When I was a young child, I tragically lost my father. And I suffered a lot as an orphan. And I understood that if I didn't bring this plane down safely, those people would live what I lived through, and all of them would experience this. And I couldn't let that happen. So that was the thought that got me to land the plane in the Hudson, and it didn't crash." After the only thing he said to the people, the only words he said was brace for impact. The only thing he could tell them was prepare for difficulty. I'm with you. I'm guiding the plane, and I'll get you down safely. After they landed the plane, one of the passengers was scared and opened the door, and water came flooding into the plane. And of course, that put the aircraft at a risk to sink. But he walked the length of that airplane 2 times, not once, but twice, before he exited the plane, to make sure that there would be nobody left behind. And certainly we want to make sure when we're teaching that nobody is left behind. And I want to also tell you a little acronym called CAVU, CAVU. It's an aviation acronym that means Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited. President Bush often signed his letters to individuals with this acronym. And we have to always remember that we can bring it far, but we have to have high goals in mind to get there with the kids. And that means we have to be the best teachers that we can be, know everything that we can possibly know to help our students. Okay, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us this evening, and together we will get through this. And I am showing you my bibliography and my contact information. And I wanted to show you a little, before you leave, I wanted to show you a little example of orthographic mapping at work. So there is a game called, where's my little envelope? If I can find my little envelope. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's called Crazy Letters. Has anybody ever heard of that game?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to actually hold it up. Okay. So when we talk about orthographic mapping, if you look at this word, so what this game is, it gives you a bunch of cards and the letters are in the right order, but they might be upside down and then all the fonts are different. And if you read Dr. Kilpatrick's book, we know that teaching kids lots of fonts is a good idea, because orthographic mapping is about our auditory input and auditory sequencing, and we should be able to recognize visual input. But if you look at this, I play this game a lot with my kids. I start looking for orthographic patterns in the words in order to get where I want to start my word from. So right away, and no matter how you turn it, it's a little funny, but what orthographic patterns do you see in this word? You might even know what the word is, but do you see any letters that you think might stay together?
AU.
And here's another one. I'm going to put this one up. It's a little bit shorter. Whoops. And notice that the letters are, do you see a T and an L and an E there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I say that, could you read that word now?
No. Turtle.
Turtle, yes. So when I started playing this game with the kids, I called Dr. Kilpatrick because I thought it was so interesting. I began to look for orthographic patterns And that's often how I've been able to read the words in the game. And I really think that's a lot of what we're talking about. We're talking about orthographic mapping, that we begin to see patterns, and those patterns kind of pop out at us. So I hope you have your letter sounds. You can call me if you have questions. We will be sending you the completed consonant mat and Pat Lindemood's sounds. And I'll try to send the pictures that we took of our completed objects today. Now, does anybody have, I know that we're just on time, so you have to leave, but does anybody have questions? Or is there anybody in the chat? So just keep thinking with your sounds. Make sure you don't voice any sounds that shouldn't be voiced. When they are voiced, make sure you keep your chin tight. Make sure you are holding the sounds that are continuant sounds, and the sounds that are plosive sounds, that you're cutting those off the way they should be. Yes.
So I've got a couple of questions. I've got one from Tisha that says, why teach the different fonts and how does it help the kids?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. Because good readers, see, when we look at reading and how it works and how do we know what's successful, we look at what good readers do. Good readers could read any font. Even if you get a wedding invitation that looks very bizarre, if you look at it for a minute, suddenly you could do that. So we want to get them used to that early on, that they will see different fonts, to prepare them for the fact that they will see different fonts. So that's why he says that. And he has quite an extensive conversation about that in the text. Also, I'd recommend this book. Dr. Heinzs recommended it and I just got it. It's detailed. So if you don't like detail, don't buy it. It's pretty detailed. This is an old book. It's a great book by Adams, Beginning to Read. If you haven't read that, that is a great book by Marilyn Yeager Adams. Okay. And
The Louisa Moats book.
yes.
Am I on the Louisa Moats book? Be sure you order the 3rd edition. It's so wonderful.
Yeah,
It
the
has
new
much
one.
more in it than her
Yeah.
first and second.
Also, if you are, also you have your, don't forget the Slingerland manual for anybody who would like to see that. Mine's well used, as you can see, with all the stuff sticking out of it. And there's a lips manual, of course, that I use a lot, but that might be helpful because it goes through all the sounds, but you probably got a lot of it tonight. And this is a great publication, the Reading League Journal. You can I think it's $100 and you get 3 of them. They're great. This one was on the simple view of reading. Nod your head if you know what the simple view of reading is. It's not so simple, but it's definitely worth a conversation, the simple view of reading. So next time, same time next week, we will be talking about the most exciting thing, which is the vowels, because that's where people have a lot of trouble, and there's reasons why they're harder for people to get. So we're going to do that next week. We split it like that because we've done it before where we've done them all in one night and it's a lot. So, but thank you so much. Thank you, Lavinia. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shira. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
And all of
much.